There is no prospect of a trade war with Germany. Mercedes, Audi and Volkswagen would not allow the German Chancellor to enter into such a trade war because we buy more from them than they do from us. And anybody that lives in the real world knows it's the customer that's king and we are the buyers. It's as simple as that. And we'll be told that we need to be in the European Union for greater global influence. This is the rubbish that's been trotted out, starting with Roy Jenkins and going on with the Foreign Office for the last 40 years. Greater global influence. Well, how is an unelected Brussels bureaucrat increasingly speaking for us on foreign policy, with William Hague, it would appear, on holiday most of the time? How is that greater global influence for this country? It isn't. It's a diminution. And what about trade? What about trade? When the World Trade Organization meet to discuss global trade rules, the British delegates have to leave the room because we're members of a customs union in which we are now forbidden from making our own trade relationships with any other part of the world. Europe is actually declining as a percentage of global trade with every single year. It's the rest of the world that's growing, isn't it? It's Singapore, it's India, it's Brazil, it's China. And we would have much greater global influence if we were able to negotiate our own trade deals ourselves. And this idea that we're not big enough, Iceland, 320,000 people, Iceland last year signed a trade deal with China. If Iceland can do it, then we with 64 million people most certainly can do it. But that is not the issue that will dominate these European elections. The issue that will dominate the European elections is the number one issue in British politics, and that is that the vast majority of us, nearly 80% of us in this country, believe that open-door immigration is irresponsible, against the interests of the people of this country, and that it must stop. That is the issue that will dominate the European elections. We have seen, since 2004, a doubling of youth unemployment. We've seen since that time wage compression. People doing jobs now taking home less money than they were 10 years ago. And all of this has happened because we now have a totally distorted labour market in Britain because of the massive oversupply that has come to us from Eastern Europe. It's ordinary folk, it's ordinary families that are paying the financial price for this. But what about the social price of this? The fact that in scores of our cities and market towns, this country, in a short space of time, has frankly become unrecognisable. Whether it's the impact on local schools and hospitals, whether it's the fact that in many parts of England you don't hear English spoken anymore, this is not the kind of community we want to leave to our children and grandchildren. 80% of people were opposed to opening the door fully on the 1st of January this year to Romania and Bulgaria. And yet the three so-called main parties did not lift a finger to stop that from happening. Did you see the figures yesterday on immigration, by the way? Anybody notice that? An increase in net migration last year of 40%, and nearly 100% of it coming from European Union countries. You know, it isn't directly Romania and Bulgaria that I'm necessarily concerned about. What I'm really concerned about is the fact that in the Eurozone, in the Mediterranean, there is no sign or prospect of any significant recovery at all. In fact, it is most likely that the majority of Romanians that come to Britain don't come from Romania. They will come from Italy and Spain, where there are already 1 million Romanian migrant workers. If the Eurozone goes as badly over the next few years as I still believe that it will, we face the prospect of the largest migratory wave that has ever come to this country, and we have three political parties who are not prepared to do anything about it. And so, these European elections are about EU membership, they're about open borders. They're about the fact that you cannot have your own immigration policy and remain a member of the European Union. And what we've got to say to the British people is this: if you support open door immigration, if you want to continue with this process, that's fine. vote Labour, vote Conservative, vote Liberal Democrat. But if you believe that we should govern our borders, if you believe that we should control immigration, if you believe we should have a sensible immigration policy, where we have not just quantity control, but we have quality control as well, if you believe we should model our immigration system along the lines of a country like Australia, then vote UKIP on May the 22nd. And there's something else I want us to do in this campaign. We as a party have claimed back the idea that debating the European issue is not some disreputable, appalling thing to do. We have made the European debate respectable in this country. We have made the immigration debate. Remember 10 years ago? You couldn't talk about immigration. Somehow if you did, it meant you were a terribly awful, bad person. But we in UKIP have taken that issue head on, and I think proved the point that it is not extremist to talk about immigration, it is the responsible and right thing to do, to talk about immigration. But what I want us to do in this campaign is I want us to make it once again respectable, to make it once again something that is not sneered at, for us to be able to stand up and say, we are patriotic and we are proud of who we are as a nation and who we are as a people. Let's make patriotism a respectable political idea in Britain again. Our ruling classes have lost confidence in this country, and that's why they've sold us out, and it's cost us money, it's cost us influence, and it's cost us self-respect. And they also appear to be wholly unfit to even manage anything in this country either, because they've handed down most of the responsibility of government to quangos, generally run by failed former politicians. As we're in the West Country, you might have guessed, I'm talking about the Environment Agency. It is astonishing to me that the Environment Agency's priorities for now nearly 10 years have been to maintain the EU Habitats Directive, to put the interests of wading birds, molluscs, beetles and water voles above the interests of farmers and householders on the Somerset levels. They've even effectively been stopped from dredging, because that is now classed as industrial waste and costs a lot of money. Well, I think there needs to be an immediate public inquiry into the way in which the Environment Agency have operated, why they have not put the interests of householders and farmers first. And I must say, going and visiting not just Somerset, but the Thames Valley as well, makes me believe that this is a strange, unnatural disaster that has happened in this country. We all know that the insurance companies will not fully compensate everybody, and so I reiterate today my call for us to take just a tiny percentage of the foreign aid budget to compensate people in this country who've suffered in these floods. Surely this is a time when the principle of charity begins at home needs to be put into action. But I'm going to talk a lot more, we're all going to talk a lot more about domestic policies post the May 22nd election. Let's keep our national campaign focused on the European question and the consequences of it. After May the 22nd, we will talk about domestic policies, and we will produce a manifesto that this time doesn't resemble war and peace, okay? You have my absolute promise that we will do that, and we will get that right. But for the next 84 days, let's say to ourselves that this is the moment that we've waited for. This is it. This is the big one for UKIP. Together, we can achieve something remarkable in these European elections. We can top those polls. And if we top those polls, it will then give us the momentum to drive us forward to the general election a year after that. We will have to put in place some pretty ruthless targeting strategies, but it is not inconceivable that a good number of UKIP people can be elected to the House of Commons in 2015. But it will only happen. It will only happen if we effectively clear this hurdle on May the 22nd. Do you know, we carry now on our shoulders the hopes and prayers of millions of people in this country. They want us to succeed, and we must do our absolute best to say to them, help us to help you. Together, we can get our country back. Together, we can put back the pride and self-respect that we ourselves feel in our nation and in our people. And I think we've got the message right. Love Britain, vote UKIP. Thank you very much indeed.
So that's the leader of UKIP.